Hello everyone again. This is the third meeting interview discussion with Lubomyr Melnyk, the continuous pianist. Um, Last two interviews have been about the beginnings. Uh, we should wrap up with that, but there was just one little question I had at the end, so let's talk for about 5 minutes about that. I asked you in the very early days, before there were any pieces, before there were any because nobody had come before you, right? You didn't have any practice pieces to use. You just played, and you gave this analogy of finding the train and just jumping onto the carriage mid motion. And my question to you was, initially you didn't really know that this train existed. You didn't know what form it had. You didn't know what shape it could take. You didn't really know that the technique existed yet. So
Exactly.
how did that work?
That your description is very accurate, and I'm reminiscing now, or trying to remember part of the whole process. And there are so many tiny factors. Uh, it's when something new is created, there's usually a phenomenal amount of very seemingly insignificant things that all come together and make it happen. Um, I think one can say this about a lot of major things, but it will remain to see whether continuous music is will remain as a major thing in the world or not. I really don't know that, but uh, about the actual source of the creation, it was, I guess, the main impetus, or the main uh, force that was starting to create this were the dance classes of Carolyn Carlson, where I was to play. And we talked about that previously, the other, but that was the main generation, or the main generator of this event of getting continuous music, just because of what I had to do during the lessons, and because of her character, and because what she was like, and the whole beyond dimension character of her classes, that were not just dance classes. These were classes in transcendence.
Hmm.
So it was quite quite astounding to be part of it. And uh, so when I would come home and play on the piano, um, the idea of maintaining a constant stream of sound, that was what I was doing at home, because I found it very beautiful to do and I loved it. And so it was from there that I began to notice that uh, these patterns were flowing very simply from um, a state of mind that was actually a certain portion of my mind was suddenly activated, which had not been activated before, never existed before. So the uh, technique became to crystallize for me as a technique, for me to understand it, because uh, in that new mental procedure that was going on inside me, inside my head or in my mind, um, the I also began to notice uh, two very odd things that I had never noticed before. One was about the sound of the piano, that it was truly a. I can only draw an analogy of the Northern Lights and the tapestry that was that was evolving constantly and changing and mutating and it was never sitting still or dull. It was there was something new happening. Even though I was playing the same notes, the world was changing. The sound was changing, and I noticed also that there was a particular strange new energy inside flowing through my forearms, through my wrists, into my hands. And I realized that this energy was actually the technique of continuous
Mm.
breathing. And it was, uh, I was to discover, it was changing the, the whole structure of my muscles and my body. The, uh, You see, this is why I say it's similar to the martial arts,
Yeah.
because this is what happens with the martial arts is that the master's body actually physically changes. It's not nothing like the body of a
But
normal.
to clarify, what's more mysterious to me is how you decided what to play. So was it simply the act of you imagined the dance class and you wanted to write some music that would fit
No,
that,
no, I
or
no,
what
no,
was
no,
the
I did
decision
not.
of what to play?
No, well, I did not imagine the dance class. I was simply pursuing a musical combination of notes, that I would just pick out and start playing. So, yes, I made these were the first events of continuous music, and I made them. And these were sort of notes that I just chose to use in creating a pattern. Right?
Okay.
Right. Now, this is related to what I had wanted to. I wrote to you about uh, what is this technique? Where uh, you're you're trying to uh, perceive the origins or the start of it, but that's also very vague because it was not a sudden event. It was something that grew and grew and grew. It
Mm.
wasn't a long process. It might have been just, let's say, a month or two, but it was enough to have it come to life. Now, for me, the question is now: is this teachable to other people? Can I instill in you the same mental feeling uh, that I have when I'm playing? And um, I I want so much to be able to give that to other people. So this is the thing to talk about is how because I want to talk about it because I see in uh, all of my students and this traditional uh, mentality of the piano, like the student pianist, or not the one who's learning, the one who is the student who is trying to develop and become better. And there's always a desire to get something more and more difficult and more advanced, and uh, be able to do it. And then you jump on to the next thing. And this is very much how uh, classical piano students operate. They always want to go farther and farther, and the teacher carefully chooses the music for them so that it's neither too advanced or not too easy, etc. And um,
Mm.
the thing with the continuous technique is that basically uh, what you're doing should feel the same way forever, so that you don't really advance. And in a sense, I have not advanced, although it changes. There are new things that come, but you cannot get them from the pieces. They have to happen inside your body, inside you, inside your mind. So,
So you mean that the feeling that you have when you're playing a piece that you find easy, you should have that feeling for every other piece that you do.
in general, yes. Now, that doesn't mean that you come across something that you find physically or mentally uh, kind of difficult, but that difficulty should uh, disappear, not get overcome, but disappear on its own, and suddenly you can do it. And
Yeah, so I experienced this with cloud facade.
mhm.
The first month, I mean, my hands really hurt, very difficult, very difficult. I went on holiday, I come back, easiest thing in the world,
Yes,
suddenly.
yeah, and this is Nathan. This is exactly how continuous music works. When you go away and you rest and you, I guess you refresh yourself, and then you come back to the piano, and suddenly everything is really easy. Uh, so this is exactly what has happened to me a lot too, and um, and I'm very very happy that you've experienced it. But I'm also a little bit worried now with this Loon St. Petri work because of the somewhat weird patterns that are there. And uh, the weird patterns have have a specific mentality to them that you have to reach, because getting these weird patterns uh, just like that, it doesn't happen. They're uh, once once they're flowing, like you say, once the train gets moving, then it's not hard to maintain it. These patterns are not difficult, but uh, getting your mind to handle them is harder. And this is why I say it's good to take a break and go away from it.
Yes.
It's um, not because you can't do it. You can do these. It's just that one needs uh, uh, to come back things and see things a little bit differently.
Yeah, I took a break of about 3 weeks. For context, people listening, I recently found a score to a piece called the Lund St. Petri Symphony, which Lubomyr wrote in the 80s. There was an arts gallery, the gallery at Lund, which is in Sweden. The piece was for three pianos. As far as I know, only one of the piano parts has a score that we still have.
Well,
So
no,
you can.
all three parts exist. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I only have the score to one of those three parts, and I've recently been playing it. It's a very unusual piece. It it seems easy when you look at the notes, but when you actually try it, it is quite challenging. And but it's been good for my development. Anyway, that's the context.
Yeah. Um, and uh, in general, it's might be advantageous for people working with me that we let the pianist go free from the rigorous structure of a piece that's written on a, written down and notated. Or that one can take this notated piece and do some various uh, changes to it. Like, before you go on to the next line or something, you might add some feature, some note into one ad or something. Um, but yeah, but
I was just about to say, we we mentioned that we should talk about how this music differs from ordinary music. So,
yeah,
just based on what you said, this leads quite nicely into what is the role of the score in continuous music versus classical music? Is it improvisation? What's the difference, and so on? Uh, or
Yeah.
just what you were saying made me think of these questions.
Yeah. Well, I think the written pieces are meant to be played pretty much the way they're written. Right? There is some room always for the pianist to add some feature or something, or to add an extra chording as a transition somewhere. Um, but the the written pieces should be played the way they're written, and uh, the difference. Well, see now there are many differences to discuss, Nathan.
Yes,
So
loads, loads.
right now, um, okay, you're bringing up one feature that I had not thought of discussing now, but uh, it is the relationship between the pianist and the written piece. Whereas in uh, general music or classical music, it is very uh, quite strict. You really have to follow everything note for note because really everything is so perfect there. You know, Chopin did not make mistakes, and uh, you know this music is will lose its beauty if you change things somewhere. Uh, this is perhaps not 100% sure because uh, I think by the time you got to Beethoven, I think in playing Beethoven, I find that there is somewhere in almost all the places somewhere where the pianist can do something that's not on the score and will still preserve the beauty of Beethoven's piece. Um, but that's it's quite rare, you know, to do that. So, but in classical, I mean, in continuous music, you've got uh, a little bit of that going on from time to time. So somewhere while you're playing, you may decide to change the left hand chord position, or you may change the octave and go up a different to a different register. Um, the but that's kind of a small, insignificant aspect of the pianist's relationship to the score. The main difference here about the continuous music and the pianist and classical music and the pianist is that uh, the, the in continuous music, you, the pianist, have to make the sound and the flow of sound, the flow of the notes live through time, and you control it, and you're using the notes there in partially to paint colors for people on a canvas, and so uh, there, one can say that there's a whether you do blue or turquoise uh, or something similar or purple or something. This all uh, is part of your creation. So basically, the score is unfinished until the player plays the piece. And every time the player plays the piece, it will be different because the time structures will change because the flow of chording to chording, etc., and section to section will forever be different because it's living. It's part uh, you take or you give your life. I was going to say you take the music and you take it inside, and that's true too. But you also take your own life and give it to the music, and you start together with the score creating this living river of sound. And through time. So this does not happen and cannot happen in classical music because those pieces are perfect as they are, and they have to be, followed exactly as the notes. But this idea of, in a sense, the pianist becomes partially the composer, even if you're not changing the notes, but you're using the notes to create something that you and only you are creating. And I think this makes sense for you because you do it because you play it. But to people who don't play it, it might seem a little um, difficult to comprehend. But it's actually um, it's very easy. In a sense, um, if you're going to uh, do if you're going to read a, um, a soliloquy from Shakespeare, uh, the words are there, but your intonations, your pauses, your stresses, and your things that come in quietly, like uh, these diminuendos, crescendos, these delays, these like how you separate some words at some particular point. That's all a living process that you, in uh, speaking the soliloquy, will use to make it living and wonderful. And so, in the same way, you, the continuous pianist, take the harmonic things uh, that are there, like the ingredients there, and you start making them come alive with your fingers and sound, and you play with the sound. And there's no instructions for this. You have to do it yourself. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah.
As you said, there are loads of other differences, and the other differences are very difficult to describe. Like, so when people ask me, "Oh, you play piano," and I say, "Well, yes, but I only play this music of Lubomyr Melnyk," and they say, "Okay, what's that about?" It's very
Uh,
tricky to give an answer. Um,
yes.
uh,
Well, but the technique itself is so very different from the other techniques of playing the piano. The For 350 years or more, I guess. Well, soon it'll be 400 years. The piano has been played in the same way. So when uh, Cristobaldi invented the piano, and we go back to the very early uh, people playing it. You have, I guess, the only first pianist whose name that I can think of that's known is Scarlatti. I don't know if there may be others who are before him, but he was around that time when I guess his technique had developed quite much. But playing Scarlatti's music or playing like him would be not so different from playing uh, the 20th century music or playing uh, Schubert or playing Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, this Handel, this sort of stuff. The activity of the fingers is very similar, and that is that uh, the classical pianist uh, uh, generates his activity from the knuckles, from the first knuckle, yeah, where the fingers join the hand,
mm,
right there. That is where the dance begins because uh, the fingers have to hop around all over the place. I mean,
yes.
and so it's magnificent what they do. And when I'm speaking of these differences, this is not to belittle one or the other. Uh, I'm just simply expressing uh, the great difference between them. Uh, I would not be able to judge what is a higher technique, the Tai Chi or Kung Fu. Um, it's really hard to say. Uh, I have some knowledge of Tai Chi. I have no intimate knowledge of Kung Fu or people who are actually masters of it, if there are any masters now. But um, nevertheless, uh, this is not a judgment. This is simply explaining the thing. Uh, being trained classically, I was also operating from just my fingers, but gradually, well, it wasn't that gradual, but over a period of a few months, it's changed so that eventually the uh, the power of the fingers was moving into the wrist, and so uh, basically the music develops farther and farther. At this point, after playing continuous music for 50 years, I don't play with my fingers at all. I have no almost well, a very, very minimal sensation of my fingers moving whatsoever. The music has internalized into the body itself through the wrist. And uh, so I'm perceiving several different dimensions of the keyboard as I'm playing because I'm not using my fingers. I'm actually joined to the piano through some mysterious connection that I cannot explain. But it's as though my arm actually is actually become part of the piano itself. Uh, and I don't think this happens with classical music. Uh, they might wish that it could happen, but uh, it can't happen because the the mentality, the spiritual existence of the pianist is very different from the spiritual existence of the continuous pianist. Uh, so what I said now can be quite frightening to people, and you know, say this is very, I don't want to do that. But uh, I would say that it's extraordinary, and it's so beautiful, and it makes playing the piano so meaningful and so divine. You know, it's it's a phenomenal. Uh, I guess it's a small sort of small kind of ecstasy to be able to sit at the piano and know that your hand and your piano will do anything, anything you want, anything, you know. And uh, this is quite a joy. And I mean, so those people who think that it's a this continuous piano playing is a strange road. Um, I think the result is very wonderful, and that I think it gives the pianist a great deal, and develops the mind and the body physically. And well, I mean, the piano in general, even regardless of uh, you know what type of music you are, because there are some really phenomenal pianists in the world who don't do continuous music. They do also. There's some classical pianists. There's some others who do other music that are phenomenal. And um, I think the one thing with the piano is that it's an extraordinary instrument, and the most extraordinary instrument, and it's the one. It's totally unique in playing. You know, it's the only instrument that is actually you have to make the sound, and you're playing on one physical plane with the two hands, left and right, like that. All other instruments, the hands are placed sort of contrary to one another. Like that. no matter what, even if you're playing cello or violin, or if you're playing oboe or guitar or well, anything. The piano is the only one that has this thing, and for some reason I cannot explain at this point, this has a very strong effect on the psychological or mental intellectual development of the human being. And this is why people in the early 19th, like, in the early 1900s, it was very, it was very well known that, you should just get your kid to learn the piano just so that the kid will be a little bit smarter than the other one, because the piano does this. And I think in some ways, continuous music develops the mind farther than um, classical music. Um, so that your mind expands, and uh, your whole being expands into uh, quite quite phenomenal, uh, indescribable ways. But I believe that if I think that if I could for 5 minutes give you my body, so that you're still Nathan, but I mean, you don't look like me, but I mean, like, you, I give you what I am to your being, into your body, for 5 minutes, and then you can decide. You play the piano, play the way I play, because you can suddenly do that, and uh, then tell me after. Uh, is this something? Well, yeah, really worthwhile to pursue? Uh, I suspect you would say yes, but the problem is it's not just playing the piano. This affects you uh, all day long.
Mm.
So just as in Zen, the Zen monk never stops being a Zen monk and feeling Zen all day long. He doesn't stop just because he has stopped chanting the prayer or something like that. Uh, the the chanting, like, the prayer is not the purpose of Zen. The prayer is the tool, or the not tool, but the thing, or yeah, I'll use the word tool loosely there. Please forgive that clumsy word, but the tool that the Zen master uses to achieve the state of Zen. So likewise, the continuous pianist uses the piano music and the continuous technique in playing the piano to achieve the state, the physical and mental state of being a continuous pianist, which is ultimately uh, somewhat similar, I would say. They're not the same, but somewhat similar to Zen. Uh, but not really. Like, they would never be, and like, there are definitely huge differences. But I use this analogy simply to explain to people that, aha, maybe this music really is worth doing for me as an individual.
I can definitely say that it's worth doing because after 4 years and a lot of time, yeah, I'm nowhere near your level, and even then, it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Even this small chunk that I have is worthwhile. But
But I think the biggest step, Nathan, came when you came back from your little holiday, and suddenly Cloud Passard number three was just breezing away through your hands, and you would just play. And I listened to the recording, and indeed your speed at the end is exquisite, and I can see that the there is a power and that is flowing through you, from you, through your hands, through your wrists, and you're generating. This is one of the things that I think classical music does lack a little bit. Where continuous music, I would say, safe. I'm on safe ground to say this, that the continuous pianist has far more power to play than the classical pianist.
Yeah.
Even yes, master, they cannot achieve nearly the power that the continuous pianist can induce into the playing, and the crescendos, and the loud playing that you as a pianist can achieve, because you can make the piano roar, whereas the classical masters cannot do that. I mean, they could if they trained, and they could do this, but I mean, just strictly using their classical fingers, they could not do it because they lack the power.
There's something to say here about sustenance, right? Because a classical pianist obviously can play very loud in an individual grand chord, or they can play very fast for this brief little scale that they do. But the sustenance, the kind of timeless repetition is very different.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not as good as you, obviously, but even then, classical pianists have asked me after a concert, how is it that your hand doesn't hurt? How is it that you held this for so long? I get asked this question, and it kind of doesn't make sense anymore, this question.
no, because it's actually so easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So- but I'm very glad it's easy for you. But I'm also very glad that these young pianists are noticing this and aware of this aspect of playing that they ask you. So that's also a good sign uh, for them, that they have this uh, something inside them said, "Hey, wait a minute, this this guy is doing something very unusual. Like he can do something I can't do." Like they cannot maintain the energy, and this is, I guess, this does come back to this. One of the differences is that as a continuous pianist, you're beginning to able to tap energy sources that are even outside of the body. You're able to um, just tap into the phenomenal energy of your soul, and like the power that we have, and the I don't know it. So this definitely now, without wanting to, we've actually come to a very important big difference between continuous piano technique and the other type of playing. So this idea of sustaining and having the power, but it's also you said that the classical pianists can achieve a really strong fortissimo on chords. They can't, compared to a continuous pianist. It's nothing. The continuous pianist can create a powerful chord because of the access to power, which the other pianists do not have. So uh, their fortissimo chords seem quite loud, but they're not as strong as what a continuous pianist can do, because we have a much greater broad width of um, potential from the softer. They can't play as soft as a continuous pianist can play, and nor can they play as loud either. And so this too is another di- uh, difference. But those two aspects, loud and the soft and the loud, come from the technique, the energy which has changes the body, changes the hand and the wrist, so that my hand now is a complete one supple sort of clump of air, or of water if you wish, but mostly air. Basically, it can change to water. It can also change to steel if you wish, but it can be transformed into different types of matter. So the uh, this is why the, um, the power comes, is because the body has been opened up and things have changed, and suddenly you can access the power because of the softness of your flesh. Because uh, when your flesh becomes soft, that is because, well, they comes together at the same time. The power within you is speaking through you, is actually going through the flesh. The flesh no longer is a hindrance, because in a normal body, the flesh in the hand is a hindrance to the power of the soul. Once the flesh in the hand has been transformed, the power flows through it. And the hand is actually generating, it works with the power of the being into the piano. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but this is what I can say now. These things I say to you now, after 50 years, I would not have said after playing continuous music for 10 years. All right. I would have said something different, you know, because I had not discovered this. And I mentioned to you that it took me uh, 20 years, yeah, of playing to be able to achieve arpege playing. You know, that's a long time, and I did not even know that arpege was possible. It simply occurred when my mind and my body was finally ready. It just happened, and I could do it. But it took 20 years. And so, if you had asked me just 10 years after continuous music, or I wouldn't have known of this, because my hand was not doing quite the same things. Uh, it was approaching. It was always going there. My hands and my playing were always moving towards the state of being that I am in now. But the uh, the end result, I had no idea what it would be. It's like asking yourself, like, what will I be doing 10 years from now? No one can tell, and so I could not tell that. Uh, so I'm speaking now uh, uh, as somebody who's been around a long time doing it. So that, um, and also a word of caution that uh, one should not strive to achieve what I have described now. It will simply happen on its own. All right, you can't.
Mm.
It's wrong to try to practice to get that. What you should do is uh, feel and be sensitive to yourself as you're playing, and grow from your own playing as you play, because you will make yourself grow as a pianist.
Yes, I mean a lot of what you've said is not about something very very literal, so it is difficult to comprehend as like a specific thing. So you can't really strive for it because it's not super specific, and what exactly it will mean for you depends on how you feel and so on. So I don't know, like I can't claim to feel a lot of what you've said yet, obviously, but I can definitely say that my hands do feel quite different than they did even a year ago. The differences are not major, but I do feel them. And after a long practice session, I do feel that my hand is quite different. But if anyone's listening thinking, well, what do you mean you can change into steel or air or whatever? I mean, it's not literal, but you, at least for me, I do get this feeling when I play sometimes of pressure on the keys, but somehow there's nothing in between.
Mhm.
I feel pressure, but the palm of the hand is gone.
Yeah. But this is very, yeah, I'm very glad to hear that because indeed uh, that is the essence of the energy, that the hand is slowly uh, disappearing from your consciousness. No, it's not. I mean, the hand is physically there, but you're not thinking about it. You're feeling the piano keys on the tips of your fingers, and it's well, there are actually so many different ways I experience the piano when I'm playing. So it changes a lot. Like I may describe it, some part of it as this or that. Another part I will feel quite differently about it. This is one of the beautiful things about playing continuous music is you can play the same thing, but suddenly your sensation on the keys, like the touch, your the contact into the piano has changed, and the sound that you're creating harmonically is the same as you were the day before, but uh, the actual essence of the sound is different because your contact has changed into the keys. Uh, a new playing, or maybe after a long period of time, you start to feel it, and the there's this is one of those really beautiful things of a very intimate, truly intimate and beautiful relationship between the continuous pianist and the piano, that the two of you become very close, and like really super close friends, and uh, it's it's very funny. I was on Friday. I was at this auction house. Uh, I mean, it's not an auction. It's really sort of like a I forget what they call it in England, like a boot sale or like a car boot.
So yeah.
Yeah. But it's like a few thousand square meters of it. But anyway, the guy's running there, and we started talking about the piano. He's not a pianist, and he says to me, pianos are living beings, and you have to treat them like. And of course, I know that, but the fact that he said it was quite amazing. I think he's quite a astounding fellow. But this friendship between you and the piano developed, and and in a sense, the piano helps you speak. The piano becomes your voice, and so this is one of those beautiful things, and uh, different too. Like this again is quite a difference from classical playing, because in classical playing, the piece is so perfect and so divinely. I mean, you know, just plain divine. You're just thinking about the piece. You're just reveling in the beauty that Beethoven or Debussy or Ravel. You're you're just in heaven just from the joy of their piece, which is so beautiful. So you don't really get this. The piano is not really that important. The piano is simply a tool to create the sound so that Ravel's piece will you can hear it and love and become overjoyed in the beauty of Ravel's piece. Whereas in the continuous music, you become overjoyed by the beauty of the sound of the piano. So that again is another big difference. But
When sorry, go ahead.
yeah, they should maybe if we can sort of round this off soon, and for today.
Mhm. Yeah, I so maybe one last question to ask then, based on all of this. Well, I mean, it's a question I sort of have an answer to, but I think it's worth explaining. So we were talking a lot about touch there and contact with the piano and so on. What what would you say to people who are wondering what is the difference between that and just simply controlling the dynamics and usual because classical pianists teach their students to also worry about touch and dynamics and things like this.
Uh-huh.
So how would you get at the difference?
If uh, on so this is a very good point to uh, because I would say uh, to the classical piano community, you you think you have control of your touch. They don't even know where to begin. They have something like around, I would say, 10 levels of playing, like really soft, a little bit like some like very soft, medium soft, soft. There's a mezzo forte, and a little bit louder, and then forte or something. The continuous pianist uh, has thousands of touches that are possible. Um, the thing is that the classical pianist does not have time to develop the touch. What they can do is uh, give a certain uh, sort of a character to the phrasing a little bit here and there. Um, you know, a run of notes can be done in, let's say, three or four different ways, etc. And uh, so there is some variation in what they can do, yeah, but it's nothing like this touch that the continuous pianist develops.
So when you say they don't have time, do you mean
Oh, I
during the
mean
piece?
in the piece. I mean playing the piece. Yeah, I don't mean that. Yeah, if they practice longer, they would. No, no, I mean because the piece, the piece's beauty uh, is well only partially. Uh, well, it does need. I mean, every classical piece needs a beautiful and correct, appropriate touch to the parts that you're playing there. And if you get it wrong, uh, then the result is not so nice at all. And so, but so of course they are concerned about touch, but only in a very um, uh, I don't know. I would say a very general and almost superfluous way. Like it's just kind of like, oh, you just go crescendo here, like, or diminuendo, or, this type of thing. And so it's not the same as actually maintaining a, a flow of notes and feeling your fingers on the key and being able to become sensitive to how much pressure your fingers are doing because because you are playing in time. You have the time in the music. You're main you're sus, you're sustaining the sound through time. So you're obviously going to have time to adjust your touch or to notice it. And then instantaneously you do it. And this sense of touch, like in the classical piece, it's pretty well like I'm going to do this diminuendo here, because it's really important. It really mm, you know puts a beautiful touch onto the whole onto that part of the piece. uh, Whereas in continuous music, you don't decide what part is quiet, what part is loud, or something. This decision is made as you're creating the music and playing it. So you create the diminuendos and the crescendos right at the moment, at the living moment, and the and because you're playing the same notes over your control of the touch is much more um, variable. Like you become much more developed in the touch to the keys simply because you well it's not simply because of the time, it's also because the continuous music energy is actually making your hand sensitive to this. Like you could have a classical pianist and have them play a couple of lines of continuous music and ask them to do some variant um, things, and you could see in their fingers that they have altered what their fingers are doing. A true continuous pianist, you do not see any change. The change, the fingers are doing the same. There is a magical secret energy connection to the piano where the hand, even though it's doing the same thing, is playing softer or louder. you know and this you can't do this with the classical technique because there the fingers actually have to move differently in order to achieve the different uh, uh, touches. Whereas I don't know if that makes sense, but the yeah, that's the this is one of the beautiful things about playing continuous music is this very highly developed uh, capacity to alter the touch on the keys. And I mean, it's not in play all the time. People shouldn't think that I'm constantly, like all through the concert or when I'm playing a piece, that I'm always worrying about the touch. No, it just comes through at moments, like uh, when you want to focus on that, you do, and then the sense of touch is unbelievable. It's so incredible, and no one can see it. Like um, you cannot tell from the way my fingers move that I'm manipulating the sound of certain notes to be louder and softer. It's all done from the mental control into the piano and through the touch, but it's not done through movement. The touch is not from an actual physical, like like a pendulum or pivoting of the finger going down. It's a magical connection to the keyboard. And this is really quite wonderful. And uh, the, the joy of doing this is quite it's quite beautiful. It's not that's not the right word. Joy is. I don't feel a joy in that sense of touch. I feel an extraordinary connection to something that is divine and timeless. That is uh, like in the realms of of the spirit, and it's really really beautiful. Uh, and I think the one thing that's see, this is not a religion. Like I'm not talking about transcendental meditation or something. I'm I'm still me, and I've not given up me to some higher power. I I'm simply let the me or the I grow into being able to to touch the piano in this incredibly beautiful and inexplicable way. Okay, so yeah, so that's we have an hour now, so that's yeah. But
Um,
it just was very, I think, very, very fine to discuss these things with you. Uh, and I'm, I worry a lot that what I say is, you know, it's difficult. It gets more difficult for me to speak about this as I progress and experience different and wonderful things from the piano, uh, because it, it might seem quite frightening to people and would scare them off from wanting to play this music.
well,
But
not just frightening, but very difficult to imagine. I mean, if you're not a particularly spiritual person, let's say, and a lot of what we've discussed here is hard to understand. I mean, and I was not a particularly spiritual person myself either, but with patience, a lot of these things that you are saying do make sense. It's just people
I,
maybe don't have that patience.
Nathan, I was thinking, apropos this, what you've said, and is that I don't know if anyone has seen. There's a film uh, which is actually very, very, I think, symbolic of what we're talking about in continuous music. Uh, and I can't remember the name. It's not an old movie, um, and it's about a magician. And there are several movies about magicians, but this is with I think his name is Edward Norton. Uh, Maybe you can Google it while I'm speaking or search it. Um, do you find the name?
I'm just doing that now.
Okay, yeah, Edward Norton. And anyway, he's
The illusionist,
the illusion.
fantasy
Yeah,
actor.
right, the illusionist. Now, now, all through the film, uh, the the for a long time I couldn't understand the ending of the film, and uh, I think the ending of the film was extremely deceptive, but very, very brilliant. Uh, Not brilliant, but very, very deep. Because I, I don't know. Okay, I don't want to tell the end of the movie, so I would say, but the 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 excuse me, all through the film, the illusionist Edward Norton, the magician, is doing real magic, like for real, for real. It's not, it's not true. It's like real magic on stage, for real. Uh, and this is why everybody is in awe, like they're shocked. You know, at the end of the film, there's a man who does not believe in this sort of baloney, blah blah. Like he's very materialistic and scientific and everything. And in the end, he has uh, his sensitivities are completely justified for him in the end of the movie. And like you sit there and you wonder, well, wait a minute, no, no, uh, what we saw happen was not, the trick. So the thing is, uh, why I bring it up is because uh, the illusionist Edward Norton was able to do real magic, you know, and it's a very beautiful thing. What he did was quite glorious, and I'm I don't know. I feel sometimes that people do not believe in magic enough. They don't believe in fairy tales, don't believe in giants, and all this sort of stuff. Uh, and this is because people have thought of this aspect as being long ago. Like people wrote, a long time ago, there was a land, where giants lived and all this sort of stuff like that. But supposing one perceives time as uh, simply a bottle with different currents, like different currents going at different speeds on it, but they're all happening at the same time. So the giants are stumbling around, throwing huge stones and boulders around, uh, and all these things are happening. The time is we're just at different levels in a different current. Like if you swivel the thing and if there's stuff inside, then it turns at a different speed or whatever. But all of it is all the water is moving all at the same time. It's not as though the water changed. It's all happening. But if people can understand this, they can understand magic. That and the thing is, people should not be afraid of other things that are quotes otherworldly because uh, they are very safe. The Being aware of otherworldly things does not place you in any danger or has any negative effect on you whatsoever. So uh, there's understanding the illusionist and marveling at this uh, beautiful magic uh, is not in no way going to uh, wreck your life, or make uh, make suddenly all the food you ever eat is going to taste lousy, or you will never have a cookie ever again. You won't be able to walk to the store and buy a chocolate bar because you believe in magic. Of course you can go and buy a chocolate bar. Of course you can eat the chocolate bar, and of course you can be happy. So it's just that uh, understanding that there is things that are deeper beyond our understanding, because I do not understand them, and I don't worry about it. I'm not upset that I cannot understand what's happening when I play the piano. I don't care that I don't understand. I just do it and enjoy it, and thank God that I can, and it's just wonderful. So all the stuff I've said about these new sensations uh, should not make you afraid.
Mm.
For say, like relating to the illusionist again, to Edward Norton, like some people uh, would say, "Oh my!" Like if they really ignore the kind of scientific uh, character in the film, so the one who denies magic, and actually think, well, uh, gee, would I like to be able to be like this illusionist? And they people would say, I would never want to be able to do that because it would mean I would have to change myself so drastically, and that's not so. Uh, I'm not like if I had the choice to to be the pianist that I am, and I was not afraid, and so people should not fear this. And the same, like if you do you want to become an illusionist like Edward Norton? Uh, well, no, but if, say not because you're afraid that you're going to lose yourself, because on the contrary, Edward Norton found himself. The illusionist discovered himself through his power to be able to do magic. This is how he did not become less him. In fact, he became more intensely him through this power. And the same, so if you don't want to become a, a generator of magic, that's fine. It's not for a lot of people. It's not going to be interesting. But don't say no because you're afraid that you're going to lose yourself. In the same way, like don't say no to becoming a continuous pianist because I'm going to lose myself into this fairy tale land and I won't feel my hands and I won't be able to eat chocolate bars anymore and all this sort of fear that it's silly. The fears are completely wrong because whatever you decide to be, it will always be what you want it to be, and it will always intensify you. So if you want to be a continuous pianist, do so. If you don't want to be, then be something else. But don't sort of say that, if I choose that, I'm going to lose myself into some strange spiritual world or blah, blah, because that's not so. Um, Whatever you want to do, you should do with your full passion, and it will be the growth of you. So, for those who wish to play the piano this way, it will be their growth. You know, they will not lose themselves. They will simply become more and more themselves.
Yes, I mean, I can say this. It's not like I've suddenly become religious or changed my personality or something. Like, not nothing. Like, I haven't lost myself. Indeed.
No, no one doesn't. And Edward Norton did not lose himself. He did not. He did not give over his soul to some, satanic power that would give him, okay, you become my slave, and then you can do this magic. It's um, this is
Yeah,
yeah.
I just want to emphasize something that you said, that you don't understand and you're not upset that you don't understand. And this is a misconception people have raised with me. Like when I've kind of echoed some things that you've said, they're like, well, okay, so there's all this kind of mystical language. Does he think he has this deep understanding, this deep secret that we don't have? And like, no. I think what a lot of people are used to this idea of like a very spiritual, like mystic leader who claims to have all the secrets of knowledge and all of this, and they think, well, this is silly, this is dangerous, whatever.
Right, I see.
It's more a function of there are things you experience. There are even some things that I experience that are just not
Mhm.
very hard to explain, and so you end up using this other language. And
Yeah,
yeah,
the things that I have mentioned and explained are very beautiful things to experience. They're truly beautiful, and this non-understanding, I think, true, it's important. Uh, but I think maybe I have been stressing or put too much stress on the spirituality of playing continuous music. Uh, Maybe because I see this as perhaps as a mistake of me to see it as a sort of a documentation for everyone and for all time. And
I don't know. I found it helpful. I'm not a spiritual person, but taking the time to try and understand what you mean has been helpful for me. That's just my experience.
and the well, the, these I think the main thing is being able to play to make the piano sing with this continuous music and play and let the music live and sing for yourself and maybe for people. And then on the periphery there come these other things, this other element of spirituality. But um, it's true uh, that it could very well turned a lot of people away. And well, okay, I don't know what to say about that at this point,
Well,
but
yeah, I would like to in future conversations talk more about this kind of thing, but maybe we can wrap up for today.
yeah, good. Okay, thank you, Nathan. So it was nice chatting with you about the music. And it's yeah. Have you seen The Illusionist?
I've not, but I want to watch it now.
Oh yeah, you absolutely have to. It's a gorgeous film. Very very well made. Very very intriguing. Very beautiful. Um, and we should discuss the ending later. Okay.
Mhm. Okay, I'll make a
Um,
note of that.
yeah. Okay. All right. So anyway, keep well and have a good week. Yeah.
Likewise.
Okay.
See you.
Bye. Now. Bye.